It is NVIDIA earnings day, and the market is waiting with bated breath to hear what the one and only Jensen Huang has to say about his company's financials. We'll be discussing that, the latest in crypto, what is happening with Target and how they are falling apart, its implication for the consumer, and much more today on Money Never Sleeps. Thanks for joining us today, everybody. As we get going, hit that like button. Remember to subscribe to the channel. And also, nothing Kevin or I say is financial advice. So please do your own research for making any financial decisions, whether that's buying stocks or trading stupid ass meme coins. Kevin, a lot to talk about today. We got the NVIDIA earnings after the market closes. We'll be hearing from their leadership directly. We saw Target earnings come in, so that we have to talk about. More uncertainty over in Ukraine and Russia right now, and how that's going to impact the markets. How are you doing today, buddy? And where do you want to get started?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Obviously, the VIX been pumping. We kind of said that after OPEX, we'd start seeing volatility into the market. But again, a lot of people are expecting a major VIX pump today. Got to remember, still VIX X is today. So there's contracts out there that are in the money or out of the money. That got to wait for those to settle. Post market today, probably expect more VIX moving forward. But outside of everything that we're seeing in the market today, I think you said it best before the show. It's a very, I can't remember the exact word you said, but it's a very skittish market, right? You're seeing some things that are just like everyone has full confidence in. And then you're seeing other things that just like, oof, that's not a good sign. So I think we should start with the oofs and go into Target because that chart, absolutely abysmal. I saw the earnings, I was half asleep. And then I looked at the chart just a few minutes ago and I was like, that ain't pretty. So let's get that one up here.
Yeah, big miss for Target on it projected its full year outlook had to be trimmed. Sales are flat. They have a big buildup in inventory right now. And it's interesting. We had Walmart earnings recently. They did not paint as bad of a picture. But I think, when you look at it, it's like Walmart is like one step below Target. Target's not like a high-end retailer by any means, but it is, slightly higher than Walmart. And I just think what we're seeing is people trying to save some money because times are tight. And so instead of shopping at Target, they're going to save 10, 15% and go shop at Walmart. And so, of course, Walmart is going to have a better outlook. Like they are the biggest budget retailer in the country, period. So there's not going to be as much of an impact there. Whereas, Target, it's going to be tough sledding for them because I think it's time at the time of the haves and have-nots, and the in-between is going to get crushed.
Absolutely. The deals are definitely there in Walmart. That's no one can deny that. I personally feel more at home in a Target. I like to be in a Target more. I remember when they used to have a Pizza Hut inside of there. Those days are gone. So
being a kid, you go to Target, your mom wants you to shut up, so she gets you a little thing of popcorn and a small slushie. You sit that, and you eat that in the cart while she does the shopping. It was great. But now that slushie and popcorn costs you like $15, so it's like no one's going to do that anymore.
Yeah, and RFK is not going to let you have that slushie anymore. Too many dies.
Oh.
That's actually a good thing, though. But looking at this here with Target, yeah, I mean, this is just not the greatest sign for clearly people are allocating their budget in different places. If you can get a better deal, why aren't you? We have to understand, too, that a lot of people think that I think that inflation is continuously going to be a problem if we continue to push money into the market. But I do think that there is a demand deflation that is coming. And this is kind of the sign of it, right? If there's not demand at some of these stores, there's a good chance that they're going to start slashing prices. That's exactly what Target's doing for the holiday season. I think that there's a good chance that others start doing it. The other thing is, too, with online shopping, it costs money to keep some of these stores open. I've been to, in the past 2 weeks, I've been to a Walmart and a Target, and I think it was at a Kohl's a few weeks ago, too. I can guarantee you that the only one that had any people in it was Walmart. So I think there is kind of this huge shift where people are definitely moving their money into some of these other stores, or they're just not going out and spending money, which is arguably smarter because a lot of people are leveraging debt, Michael Saylor. And that's going to be probably a problem if you can't pay those cards, right? We're looking at bankruptcies rising for small businesses. You have to imagine that a lot of people are going to start filing for bankruptcy if they can't make some of their payments, if they're unemployed. There's a lot of things that are just showing that the consumer is strapped, and this is one, we can't be surprised by the outcome. The death cross is, probably 2 or 3 trading days away, as we can see even here for Target. So it's going to be a fun one to watch as we go into the holiday season.
Indeed. Let's talk about NVIDIA earnings and the expectations and the market reaction around it. So earnings will come out later today. The latest data that I saw before we started recording was options trading is going to move the price of this in the $300 billion direction one way, like either up or down based on how the earnings go. And that's crazy. So, if they come out and they beat again, then we can expect market cap to go up, 300 billion. If they come in and there's a miss, decrease to 300 billion. So a lot of volatility either way. And as fun as it is being euphoric, this is another one of those spots where it just doesn't seem like the market is particularly healthy when so much of it is riding on the earnings for one company. Like, that is not ideal. And we've seen the issues with one of its bigger customers, Supermicro Computer, and the fact that they continue to, fail their audit. And I believe they're the 3rd biggest buyer of NVIDIA chips, is what I saw. So that's a problem. It feels like we're getting closer and closer to like the bubble bursting on this, but at the same time, we see more and more use of AI. It's like there's this like teeter-totter effect, right? It's like we worry about the bubble, but then we see more AI use cases, but those lead to more people losing their jobs, and that's not going to help the economy either. So it's this really weird, back and forth that is taking place, and NVIDIA is at the center of a lot of it, and how, the impact it has today. So what are you expecting from these earnings? It just seems like every time we come in and it's the same song and dance. It's like, maybe this will be the time where they don't meet expectations. Nope, they blow them out of the water. They somehow have these huge numbers, great forward guidance, and the stock just continues to trend up. So are you going to bet against that, or are you just kind of watching and waiting?
Yeah, so I mean, just first off, piggyback on Supermicro Computer, SoftBank, another customer, partnership that NVIDIA has. Obviously, we know SoftBank from the stock arm, the company arm, I should say. They're also apparently using collateral to buy their own stock back, which isn't a good look for another customer of theirs. So the company you keep is really important. And right now, it just seems like NVIDIA is not in the best of company, right? We also know that a lot of NVIDIA is heavily leveraged because of this stupid yen carry trade, and the yen just getting weaker against the dollar is allowing, I won't say idiots, allowing a lot of investors in Asia to, pile into this trade once again, the one that kind of went bust in August. So seeing that, NVIDIA has so much riding on it, just not in the US, but in global markets, that it has to blow, everything out of the water. But there's a lot of contention. Jim Cramer, also probably the worst signal for NVIDIA. Jim Cramer is bullish on NVIDIA. He thinks that the Blackwell chips isn't a real issue, that they keep overheating. So looking at today, I think we're probably going to get exactly what the market wants. It's probably going to be another blowout because there's no repercussions for what happened with Supermicro Computer. And even if there is some type of they have to address it, which I don't think they're going to mention that stock once in their earnings call, I think that there's a good chance that the market either does 2 things. One, it rips and it goes up, right? And then maybe we get a bit of a pullback after the weekend. It just seems like when these things do happen, you start to see some of the sellers come in right in the Sunday night into Monday morning trading hours, or you start to see this thing just go down in pre-market, and then you just have a really bad night in Asia tonight. Those are kind of the 2 scenarios I see. Also, I should say this because markets are illogical and don't necessarily make a lot of sense. It could just be flat for a day or 2. It's very possible that it comes in above. I mean, it really doesn't matter what happens. I think the anticipation is more of what we're waiting for. It's not necessarily what NVIDIA has to say at this point, right? You can only push up a company so much in your forward outlook. But again, they're going to need massive QE if they want a lot of money to be coming in and pushing this to higher market caps, because right now we're starting to see that money contract in the system, and their only customers are the people that are buying the stock are probably the people that just don't want the stock price to go down as well. That's just something to keep in mind.
All right. Anything else in the TradFi world? Then we can pivot over to crypto.
Yeah. I'm just going to talk about the VIX. Again, I keep talking about it, but there's a reason why I keep talking about it, just like we were talking about in July of this year, right before the yen carry trade kind of blew up. And the reason is, when we look at the VIX right now, we're getting closer and closer, bounced off this right here at 13.65 or so. And now we went through the 200 moving average, and we're finding a little bit of resistance on the 50 moving average, right? That's when we look at the EMAs. So let's take those off. Pull up the stochastic RSI, you can see that there's still some room to the upside for momentum. And then we can see the Bollinger Bands here. It's probably going to be contracting fairly soon. If this starts to roll over on the Bollinger Bands, I would anticipate that we are going to see some move either to the upside or to the downside. And it's probably going to be a decent amount. I would say north of 15% move. Is that a big deal? Not when it's to the downside, right? Because we see those cuts all the time when the VIX is down 15%. But then you look at like today and it's up 8.26%, at one point even hitting 1880, $1.10 higher than where it currently is. What we're just seeing is a lot of people are compressing this volatility. But like I said, with NVIDIA being in the top 3 indexes, if it does have a bad move, yesterday NVIDIA accounted for 64% of the gains and it crossed the top 3 indexes. NVIDIA has a bad day, everything's kind of highly concentrated in tech. We start getting some type of, interestingly enough, on time right around the end of OPEX and VIXX world news that is kind of earth-shattering that we didn't expect. There's a lot of things that could definitely send the VIX flying at this point. I'm not saying that it is. I'm just saying that it's very similar to previous patterns that we looked at in the past. It's broken out of this channel here, obviously. It's broken out of this one, and we had the moves to the upside. I don't necessarily think that it's done in terms of this cycle, seeing heights or even just trading in an uncomfortable level that would cause a lot of margin calls. Again, NVIDIA absolutely eating shit. It's going to cause a lot of pain in Asia. And even so, we were talking about what's going on in Russia, Ukraine, with both the US and UK missiles now. Well, how is that going to react to the European markets? I was looking at this yesterday, and this is the DAX. And this was the news right here. It went all the way down here after that news came out that the U.S. used their missiles were used in Ukraine, and then it just traded right back up, got rejected. There's a good chance that if there is something bad that does happen in Europe, these indexes are going to go. We talked about how critical these are on support. You're really losing it here on the DAX, which is a big one. And then the UK, you're getting close to overbought and you barely moved anything up here. So there is still a lot of volatility compression that is out there. I wouldn't be surprised if that breaks out. But, what's the catalyst? Our guess could be supermicrocomputer being delisted and NVIDIA getting hurt, or it could be something over in Europe. We really don't know at this point, but it's something that we want to keep an eye on moving forward. That being said, let's talk about some crypto. I think that's the top one a lot of people are excited about right now. It just hit 94.5 or something like that.
Bitcoin touched 95K for a hot second, came back down, and it's been, it's just under 94K at the moment. Alts are definitely struggling. Bitcoin dominance 61.25%. So currently at a cycle high. Wouldn't be surprised if that continues to rise and we get, eventually hit 62, which I know a lot of people have been calling for. So also got news that Trump is considering a White House crypto role. I've decided I will not accept if I'm offered that position.
I won't be offered that.
I'm just throwing it out there. I'm withdrawing my name from consideration for the White House crypto role.
Yeah, I would not be offered that role in the slightest. I think you would make a great addition to the cabinet, Jweb. But I need you here. Looking at this right,
I'm telling you, the FOMC pressers, if I was in charge, would be so much more entertaining. That would be must-see television. I would have wrestling, which we can talk about Linda McMahon and Department of Education.
I know.
I would have a wrestling intro music. There'd be pyrotechnics involved. Probably have some cheerleaders in there. Like, it would be a full-on show if I was running the FOMC. Let me tell you.
And you know who we need for Department of Defense? Glenn Jacobs, aka Kane. He is the mayor in Tennessee right now, so I wouldn't be surprised. Hey, Donald, give him a little tap. I would love to see him come out wearing the old '90s Kane mask too.
Oh my god, that'd be
long hair.
Amazing.
All right, jokes aside, let's look at Bitcoin right here. Obviously, a lot of euphoria pushing the price up. A lot of news around MicroStrategy also pushing the price up. The MicroStrategy stuff is very interesting to me because we're going to pull up the MicroStrategy chart in a second, but we continue to see that this entire pump to the upside, for the most part, is highly concentrated in Bitcoin itself, right? We can look at some of the other alts and everything, and things have had a great run. Like Cardano's had a really good run, Solana's had a good run, XRP's had a really good run. Off of the news that Gary Gensler is resigning and then he's going to get replaced, I just don't think that Gary Gensler wants to deal with NVIDIA, dude. I'm serious. Like, I think 100% that's kind of why he stepped down. It has nothing to do with crypto. But, having to regulate all these things that are problems after something happens, with FTX and Binance and all that stuff, he's probably like, let the next guy deal with it. So that's kind of my take on what's going on with Gary Gensler. I would, if I knew it was coming, I'd probably be like, I don't want to deal with that shit either. Again, I don't know anything though. Looking here, there you're getting divergence on the volumes and the price. And I pulled this up on USDT, Binance, and the Tether because that's where we're seeing the highest volumes across, the trading exchanges. That's where we're seeing a lot of the money flowing into. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that this is 100% accurate because when we look at BTC USD on Coinbase using US dollar, you got some weird volume spikes within it that are just like, okay, maybe this isn't, you could argue that this is, decreasing volumes. It is, but it's not necessarily the volumes. You're getting these euphoric peaks that come in and out. They're definitely pushing the price up. So it's interesting to see that. Now, I talked about on the other day with CoinGlass, where you're seeing funding rates probably like 3 to 5 times on the daily higher than what they should be. Everyone is max long. And we're also seeing, I believe, on the weekly, it's like 5 to 8 times higher than what it should be for the funding rates. So what we're seeing here is an extremely long market on Bitcoin, and we're seeing that there's a lot of liquidations on these exchanges and in general that have a ton of weight to the downside and not much to gain to the upside. And Binance was an interesting one that we showed on Monday because it was saying that we had just over $1 billion to the upside to get to 100K, and then just to I think 80K, it was like 3.5 billion. So it doesn't make a lot of sense why it's only liquidating in one direction, right? So what we have to think about here is that maybe this is definitely a coordinated push. Maybe it's your theory of institutional money pushing the price up, or we could say that's, maybe it's just waiting for distribution to happen a little bit higher, maybe close to that 100,000. But the thing I wanted to show outside of Bitcoin is MicroStrategy. Look at this thing, guys. I got to actually zoom out of this. I got to go to the monthly chart to show it.
I think it was the most traded stock today.
It was
for the first time ever. It's been like higher than NVIDIA and Apple and everything. Good Lord.
Well, what does this look like to you? I know what stock this looks like to me.
Sustainability.
It looks like super microcomputer in March of 2024. Do I have to pull it up? I can't cover. Let me see if I can cover half of this. Don't look here, but just look at that right there. I'm going to go back to MicroStrategy now.
You could always say look here because that's what's going to come next. Like if you think that's the direction we're going.
Yeah. So I'll be honest. I put in a little short on MicroStrategy this morning. Again, pocket change, like $200. I was like, let me find an ETF that's shorting it. And I found the 2x one. It was MSTZ. And I was like, you know what? I don't believe in a lot of what I'm seeing here. And I don't believe in a lot of stuff. You guys know that. But looking here on the monthly, you're at 90 and 82 after being overbought since June of 2023. Interesting date. If you guys know what that date is, you know that's a date that I've been bitching about Tether since. But outside of that, when we look at the weekly, this thing's at 100 and 100. And why do I think that this is a dangerous stock? Well, because it was a dangerous stock back in 2000. right? When we look back at what happened in March of 2000, this thing in 1 week dropped 27%. The next week it was down 43%. Why is this important? Well, because what if this is Bitcoin going through its 2000 .com bubble? I'm not saying it is, but there's a good chance that maybe Bitcoin experiences something different than what the rest of the market does. Maybe that's like the tech bubble, and it's a reset for everyone that's been in the market thus far. If MicroStrategy eats shit, then obviously Bitcoin's gonna eat shit. It's gonna be a death spiral back and forth. But the problem I have with MicroStrategy more than anything right now is that they're leveraging debt to buy more Bitcoin in a time when there's absolutely very little liquidity out there. We're having dollar shortages. You look at the dollar today. Where are you, bitch? Sorry. Spoke a little too freely there. Look at the dollar today. It's 106.7. It's up again. On the weekly, we're somewhere over here. We're still climbing. I mean, sure, it's overbought. There's a good chance it's probably going to pull back, but what's the difference between this being overbought and Bitcoin being overbought and not pushing up further, right? It's just a lot of signs that are just like, okay, there is problems in the banking system. There's problems in the monetary system. We're seeing a lot of issues when it comes to liquidity. I mean, the fact that he's selling off notes to purchase more, I don't know. I don't buy it. It's just something that we're going to have to keep an eye on. Outside of MicroStrategy, Bitcoin, is there any other crypto charts you want to take a look at?
Let's take a look at, I think ETH and Solana
for sure.
I mean, ETH is just
overbought again.
I don't even know what it's doing. I mean, on the daily, it's moving toward oversold again.
Yeah, but I mean, like on the weekly, overbought again in terms of, I mean, the last time we've been overbought on the weekly was literally March of 2024.
Look on the monthly, it's very oversold. So,
yeah,
I wouldn't be showing different things.
This thing has been just absolutely underperforming, though, too, right?
Yep.
ETH's been eating shit, like one of the worst. With the ETFs being out there, you saw way more money flow into Bitcoin than ETH. ETH was just absolutely shit. But again, you see these monthly candles with these major wicks to the upside, and you get rejected from it. Not a good sign, right? Like I see where you're saying it's going to be oversold fairly soon. But it can kind of stay oversold for a period of time too.
I still think that I don't know when the right time to I got my DCA going still on ETH because I think next year it's kind of a contrarian. Like we've discussed how people are just kind of out on it for the most part, even though it still functions, it's still being improved, going to be utilized more and more. Like those ETFs will get some volume to them. Like it just takes time. Like it took time for the Bitcoin ETFs to start to get the kind of volume that they're seeing. It's going to take time with ETH. So I think there's still plenty of upside with ETH. It's not going anywhere. It's not like VC controlled or anything. So I like ETH. I like ETH. I think we're going to see 5-figure ETH eventually. I don't know when. Maybe it's next year. Maybe it's not for another 5 years. But I'm comfortable continuing to slowly but surely accumulate it. So that's where I'm at with ETH. But yeah, on the charts, what are you seeing there?
Yeah, I mean, again, this is just kind of the thing where I don't necessarily buy this rally that we've gotten, and the Trump pump that everyone's excited about, everything being extremely well into 2025. I don't see it that way, but you're kind of trading above this parallel channel. If you start breaking back into it, this is 100% an absolute trap that got a lot of people buying a little bit too high, and you're probably going to come trading somewhere in the mid to low range, which the low range is 25.49. But I do expect this, if it does trade back in this range, to break down. And the key thing for me was we needed this to push up a lot higher. Maybe it still does. Maybe I'm wrong and it bounces off the top of this trend line and it goes for an all-time high. And that would invalidate this, ABC corrective pattern. It would have to push up higher than 4,878. I don't know if it's going to have that type of juice to get there. Maybe it pushes higher than 41.58. I'm open to that, but I'm not saying I think it's likely. I think that otherwise, I'm looking at ETH in 2025 being at some point within 3 digits. That's just been my base case. Again, the ABC corrective pattern, it's got to go lower than the A wave, and the A wave was somewhere around 877. I think that, putting in a low somewhere below that, maybe not for a long time at all, but I think that might be a good chance to, catch some bids on some really cheap ETH in 2025. And I agree with you. I think that the play is once we start seeing a lot of QE, you start seeing the inflows like the Bitcoin ETF is, and a lot of people are speculating maybe 2 years from now, we see ETH at 5 digits. I don't think that is something too crazy to think about, but it's very possible that we could be trying to make the right progress towards that 5-digit ETH in like 2026 to 2028 range. That would be my opinion. So I think that this is going to be a really good year to scalp ETH. I just don't see the value there right now. And then we look at like something like Solana. This one's really interesting because Solana is obviously there's a lot of VC money in Solana, but it's doing something really strange up here where it's pretty overbought on the daily, but it didn't go higher than the all-time high, right? We put in the high around 248. Our high is about 259. So what I'm thinking as of right now for what's happening is that we're getting pretty close to a flat correction, right? What does a flat correction mean? That means that the A wave and the B wave and the C wave all fairly similar. So I would expect that our A wave and our C wave are going to take us to similar ranges, which a lot of people probably won't like because that A wave bottom somewhere around, what was that, $8 or so for Solana, $7.99 or something like that. It would need to push higher than this first initial origin for us to say that, okay, it's not going to go that low, but it can probably go somewhere into like, sub 100 or something like that, because it'd be an irregular. As of right now, I'm kind of looking at this as a flat correction. And unless we break higher than 259 with Solana, I think that there's a good chance that is what we are looking at. Furthermore, using fun words, because I just lost my train of thought. If this starts pulling back really hard, then there's a good chance that this B wave could be absolutely, done for. And again, on the daily, fairly overbought. On the weekly, we can see that it is, 196, extremely overbought. Key thing I think for Solana and other ones right now is really Bitcoin dominance. If this thing continues to climb and Bitcoin decides to pull back, you're probably going to see a lot of outflows from the alts and might not be very pretty. So just my thoughts on kind of what's going on in the crypto market. We want to see Bitcoin kind of roll over along with TradFi kind of start to roll over. That would kind of give us an idea that, okay, maybe we are going to start seeing some volatility, both for people who are short on crypto, but also in the market itself. As of right now, we await NVIDIA.
We await NVIDIA indeed. All right, that's going to wrap it up for today's show. We'll be back on Friday, talk about the latest in the markets, recap those NVIDIA earnings, anything else that is taking place. So make sure if you haven't yet to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and have a great rest of your week. We'll see you Friday. Stay safe in the markets. Good luck out there.
Take care.